Life doesn't move in straight lines. It twists, turns, and surprises us along the way. On Better Things Ahead, we talk with people who have walked those winding paths. Each story reminds us of the lessons, hope, and promise of better things ahead. Hi, my name is Matt Cloyd, and we want to wish you a Happy New Year. New Year's is just around the corner. So this week, I'm joined with our senior pastor, Michael Estes, and our special guest this week is Steven Stafford. And so this week in our podcast, we wanted to come together to talk through the new year, talk through this idea of resolutions that people make, talk about goal setting, and just kind of walk through that, because I know everyone, new year, new chapter, all those kinds of things kind of work through. So we wanted to bring Steven in to bring some expertise there. And so Steven, thanks for joining us.
You're welcome.
And I'll give you a chance, just kind of introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about who you are, and kind of what kind of brings you in to talk.
Tell us why you're an expert on resolutions.
Expert's questionable, I guess, maybe. But I'm Steven Stafford. I'm a licensed professional counselor. Have been licensed for 24 and a half years. Is that right?
Okay.
Something like that. No, correction. I have 23 and a half years. I've been out of graduate school 24 and a half years. I'll start off what I have to say with, I am here as a counselor, but I am not providing any kind of therapy counseling recommendations. This is just me talking.
Yep.
Obviously, people that are listening, I have no idea what goes on in their personal lives. And so what I'm speaking to is just kind of general stuff.
Yeah.
About resolutions and how to help yourself improve yourself and those kind of things.
Yeah, that's great. And again, we appreciate you coming in and recognize, because I think that's a good place to maybe start, is that everyone has unique experiences, everyone has unique circumstances, all these kinds of things that kind of surround their life, and so resolutions or goal setting, all those kinds of things is going to look very different from person to person. And so I guess maybe to start, kind of talk about that and kind of talk about just some of the practical aspects. Like, what is it maybe about New Year's that tends to lead us down this road of, I want to change this or be better at this or learn this skill or whatever. What is it about it being a new year that kind of prompts that?
Well, I think for a lot of people, it's a starting point, and it's a very defined one. And so when you get that definition of, oh, it's New Year's, this is a new year, it's a new beginning, it's a new me, all that other kind of stuff like that. And I think it's just a good starting point that people grasp. I think there's a tradition behind it that the world seems to embrace, and I think that's what drives New Year's being the more important point to start change. So it gives an excuse to say I'm going to do something different.
Well, it's funny that you say that the world embraces. I think it's more like a side hug than an actual full hug embrace, because it's one of those things where it feels like everybody has the idea of I'm gonna start something new. I'm gonna try something new here, because it is I agree with you. It's a very defined break in the year. We understand it that way because we take a break before the end of the year usually as a society. We slow down some. We do things with family. Our schedule looks different, and then we hit the new year and we start back to this is what we do. And because there's that kind of hiccup in the schedule, now we're like, all right, this is a good chance for us to try something new. My question for both of you guys and producer Kelly, I'm curious: has anybody ever successfully had a New Year's resolution and followed through on it?
Collectively as a species?
That's a good question.
Just one of us?
Probably not. But anybody in this room? I'm trying to think. I don't know that I've ever... Well, I take that back. There was one. Julie got me a Read Through the Bible in a Year Bible, and I successfully completed that in a year's time. And I'm on time 2 or 3 through that now. And anyway,
was that an actual resolution?
Yeah, it was.
Okay.
It was.
Mm-hmm. That's fair. For me, I've never put a whole lot of stock in New Year's resolutions.
Fair enough.
Because at some point it becomes about, do I need an excuse to actually change something about myself, or is, after failing it enough of them, probably through my mid-20s, it's like, well, what's the point of this? You're just declaring something and you're not going to follow through with it. So I kind of, when you asked me to do this, I sent a text back.
I know.
I kind of down the whole New Year's resolution thing. Not that it's a bad idea. Anytime somebody wants to change something and improve something about themselves, whatever the reason that you are motivated to do, that's great. I'm just not it doesn't seem like very many people are successful.
Yeah.
Truly.
Matt?
I'm still trying to remember. I can't remember. It was actually, I think it was a resolution. I don't know why, or I can't remember what prompted me. It was actually, I was a senior in high school, and, of course, things change and you go into middle school and high school, specifically surrounding language. And,
I know where this is going.
and so, that was kind of, where I was, and I was using all the colorful language that was out there.
You learned it on the middle school bus. I mean,
yeah, that's right. That's exactly where you learn it. And then you find out that the only way to communicate on that middle school bus is using that language, or else no one understands, I guess. But yeah. So that's kind of where I was. And then I was senior in high school, and I think it was like right there, January resolution. Kind of made a decision that I was just gonna stop, and I was kind of trying to figure life out and that sort of stuff. I'd been attending church, been involved in church, and so just wanted to figure out something to kind of change. And so I did, and I said I'm gonna stop using what our culture classifies as inappropriate language, and I did, and never used it since. And so
it's a good one.
That was just kind of for me, and so that's the only one that I can remember, because I'm like you, where there's been times I want to do like the 1 year reading plan.
Yep.
I'll make it, man. I'll hit that strong, and then I'll get to Leviticus, and
yep. That's the one. That's the one that gets most
killing
people.
point. Many times.
And so I didn't do that. But then whenever I relaxed, and we'll probably talk about this a little bit later, whenever I relaxed away from the kind of, I've got to do this, and this to maintain this resolution, I did some things differently. But yeah, as far as resolutions goes, that's the only one that I can remember specifically, was my senior year of high school, making that decision and just kind of quitting cold turkey. And, when you finally make something and you kind of erase it, from your pattern of life, then it just becomes a little second nature.
Yeah. Kelly?
Yeah, I don't think I've ever accomplished one before.
Have you made them before?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
I'm that person you probably don't like that makes all the New Year's resolutions. I haven't done one of them. But mine this year, I'm super close. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. You got it. I mean, we're so close.
I know. We're very close. So.
And let's just be honest. If you were to fail,
Right.
at the point of us recording
I was
this
about to say,
podcast,
I'm going to give it to you at this point.
No, it's going to happen.
Yeah.
But this year's was just to read, like the Tara Lee Cobble. I tried that last year.
Yep.
It's like her Bible recap. I got very far behind and I gave up. But this year, on the day, every day.
Let's go.
I know, how exciting.
All right.
Just speed up, just smash it and read the whole thing, the rest of it in like 3 days.
Oh, like
and you
today?
get it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's right.
All right, I'll let y'all know how tomorrow goes.
So I mean, that's kind of, I'm glad you asked that question. So, because it kind of prompted that, and, I can look back over my life and kind of see failed resolutions. Mm-hmm. And I'm like you, where at a certain point in my life, I kind of started moving away from the idea of resolution, because what I found was it created this baggage maybe, and created this sometimes unrealistic expectation on myself that creates additional pressure. And now you're introducing the aspect of failure. Like I said, I just gave Kelly a hard time, because like if you fail at this point, that's kind of embarrassing, right? You make it all the way, to the end of the year and then fail. That's a big deal. But I think that's the kind of the stigma that comes along with resolutions a little bit. And
I think part of the problem with anything that anybody's trying to change is we set goals that are unrealistic. And New Year's resolutions, I think that's why I kind of go in whatever with them, is more of because people are like, I want to lose 100 pounds. Well, that's a lot, and that takes a lot, and there's a lot of effort, and there's a lot of things to that, rather than
it's not going to happen in a day or two.
No, and you've got to maintain, drop 100 pounds. It's you're putting yourself into next year in a healthy way to do that.
That's right.
And so, but those are things people will come up with, or I'm gonna stop this, or start this, or do whatever. And it's usually stop thing seems to be the bigger thing, which is another whole level of that. And I was trying to think about like if this was actually a resolution. And I don't think it was a New Year's resolution, but a number of years ago I was a smoker, and I smoked up until my 30th birthday, and I quit on my 30th birthday. But about a month prior to that, I set a plan to how I'm going to stop, and I put them down, and I haven't smoked since.
Yeah.
And so that was the thing of where I was like, did I make that a New Year's resolution? And I didn't, but it was something that I had failed at miserably for a long time. And so, but that was a point where I finally hit a point where this is what I want to do, and I made the choice, and I set a way to do that. So I think that's where people struggle with New Year's resolutions and being successful is the broadness of which they choose.
So a follow up to that, you've mentioned two words that I think are interesting, or we have in this room. One is personality. I'm curious to know how personality affects the ability to think through changes and come up with ways to move forward with change. And then the other one, and maybe these are two completely different questions, so you can kind of answer them in whatever order you want to. How important is planning, and what makes sense as far as planning to actually make successful change in your life?
I think it's vastly important.
Yeah.
And, if you're going to lose 100 pounds,
right,
that requires a diet change, exercise change, and a lot of things that you probably haven't been doing at this point. So I think anytime anybody's going to affect change in their life, they have to have a plan to do that.
Yeah.
It might be an easy plan or it might be a simple plan, but they're going to have to do something regardless of the level of,
So when you're planning, is that when it comes to simple plans, I think that's probably the best way forward. There's a book that I've read and suggested to people called Atomic Habits, and it's about small, kind of microscopic changes that we can make in our life that are not like these huge, I'm going to lose 100 pounds. It's more like, today I'm going to walk for 2 minutes, and then tomorrow I'm going to do the same thing, and then the next day I'm going to walk for 2 more minutes, and then next week when I successfully walk for 2 minutes, 5 out of 7 days, I'm going to walk for 5 minutes. And like, there is this building process that happens with like that sort of change. How important is that when it comes to, do you find that like people can make bigger changes and still do that successfully, or is it just way more important to make these small kind of minuscule type changes?
I think funny enough, you should say that. I have ADHD, and so to keep myself focused after 2 Dr. Peppers right before I got here, I have notes. And my third bullet point was make goals smaller than you think.
Yeah.
And so one of the reasons for that is they're much more easy to obtain them. You can have a bigger approach, like I want to lose 100 pounds. I'm going to stick on that one because that's where my brain's going to work today. So if you want to lose 100 pounds, there's goals to get there, but there's also little things and the little tiny changes you need to make to start the process to get there. And it's great to go, I'm going to run 30 minutes a day.
Yeah.
You're probably not if you don't already run 30 minutes a day. It's just not, you got to build.
If you've never run 5 minutes.
Yeah. So starting with 5, walking and doing things like that, just because they're little victories, and the more little victories you have, the easier it is to be motivated to push past those things at some point. So I think it's a building block. Those little tiny changes are the building blocks on bigger things.
Yeah. I want to come back to personality. I'm curious to know how personalities affect change and planning.
Hugely. There are people I know that I could go tell them you need to go do this, and they're such type A driven folks that they're just going to go do it and would kill themselves trying to do it just so they can achieve the thing. And then there are people that are not. And I think your personality type, you have to make goals that fit your personality type. I got a buddy from college that runs Ironman triathlons. He exercises every day, does CrossFit, all that other kind of crazy stuff, bikes ridiculous amounts of miles, and good for him. Yeah. I will never do that. And it's not, there's anything wrong. I'm just not driven to do those kind of things and put that much effort into it because I have kids. I have a job. I have other things. He's my age. He doesn't have kids. He just got married last year, so all this might change for him. But there's a lot more in my life that goes on that, he's very successful in the business he's in, all that other kind of stuff. But I have components of my life that I'm unwilling to give up time with my kids at baseball or volleyball or whatever that might be that we do as a family, or vacations and time, because I've got a window of time I get to have those in, and that's way more important to me than trying to see if I can run a triathlon, which I've never had any desire to do anyway. Yeah. So, but even if I did, I'm not giving up those things to go do that.
Yeah. And so I think that brings up a great thing to kind of think through is, like, as someone's listening and they're maybe contemplating a New Year's resolution or a big life change, whatever they're kind of wanting to go to, maybe they're wanting to make the small changes like we talked about. I think part of it, which you might speak to, is the idea of motivation. You get to some of the laws of motivation and all those kinds of things, how we are wired and what does motivate us to achieve those things. But if someone were listening and like they were to come to you and say, hey, I'm thinking through these potential changes or these goals, whatever it might be, how would you kind of walk someone through finding and identifying that goal or that change that they are wanting to pursue, and to make sure that the motivation is right and to kind of set them up for success? Because to your point, a lot of us, I'm this way where like, I'll get to a point in my life where I'm like, okay, I want to, fix my weight. I want to lose so many pounds or whatever. And I'm type A, so I can get on a pretty restrictive diet, exercise plan, and, kind of cut through all this and lose a lot of weight quick. And then get there, and then all of a sudden, now I'm ballooning back up because I don't have the motivation to continue to develop new habits and those kinds of things. And so that's an area that I've always struggled. And so so basically, kind of recap the question, if someone were to come to you and say, hey, I need help figuring out a goal or this change in my life, how would you kind of walk them through identifying what that
Well,
is?
I think you got to look at their goals and what they're wanting and what they're trying to do. And I think the second piece of it, and the more important piece, is what's obtainable and what can they control. Because a lot of times we try to change things that we don't really have a whole lot of control over. I always joke in therapy that, if you lay your palm out, the things you can actually control in your life will fit in your hand, and it's like the rest of the room is all the other stuff. Yeah. And so if you're going to approach a goal or approach some kind of resolution or thing that you want to change, I think you have to look at what's obtainable. There are people that can go change how they eat, change how they work out and exercise, and they'll drop weight like that. There are also other people that no matter how hard they exercise, there's something about their metabolism, their body, and all those other kind of things that is different. You'll hear, now not at this age, but when I was a lot younger, I could just go run a couple of days and then stop what I was eating, and I dropped 20 pounds like that. It doesn't work that way anymore. But because I'm 50 now, and that's changed. So if I'm going to approach that, I've got to do it a different way. And I think that's where people get frustrated, because there are people that are I know, like I said, I'm sticking on weight, but that's usually a big New Year's resolution anyway. As my buddies that go to the gym hate January because the gyms are flooded with people, and by February it's all okay.
That's right.
They can go back to their normal workout routine. And so I think that being able to go down to what can I control? What are the things that are in my power to do something about? If I have something that's going on, like I said, with their body or whatever it might be that they can't control, going and talking to a doctor or going to talk to somebody about whatever that thing might be, or acknowledging that this is going to be a barrier for me. I would love to go work out after work every day for 2 or 3 hours like I did when I was in my 20s. My wife would kill me because I've got to pick kids up and do things and be a part of a family and do all that, and I can't live independently. So that is something that's not realistic for me to go. I'm going to go every day after work and work out for 2.5 hours from 5 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. with a 14-year-old and a 10-year-old. Not if I want to maintain a happy marriage. So that's out of my control now. I can do something different maybe when they're out in college and doing all that. But at this point in life, that's not realistic. So why try to force something on myself that's unrealistic?
Yeah.
I think that answered your question.
Yeah, no, that's good. And I think setting those realistic expectations on ourselves is a big deal. And, as I mentioned, some of the areas where I would struggle, like if I try to do the 1 year reading plan and kind of read through each, to read the full Bible in a year, ended up doing that, a couple of times and not as a resolution. Because what I found was when I would set it as a resolution, then I get behind a day or two. Now all of a sudden you're like, oh, well, I've got to try to get caught up and this and that. And then what I also discovered, specifically with reading the Bible, was now I was just creating a task, right? And I was just reading through to check my box. Sure, Holy Spirit's going to work through, my inadequacies in that and my, lack of attentiveness to it. But, still I would find myself, again, just a task, and I'd read this and I'm really absorbing it, and compared to, hey, instead of trying to just read through the Bible in a year, I just want to spend X amount of time, in the Word each day to now develop a habit so I can get into it and actually read it. And if I get stuck on 2 verses of just kind of thinking and praying through it and, processing that, that's okay. I don't need to put this unrealistic expectation on you. Well, you need to read this many verses, this many, all that, and kind of help free us up a little bit when it comes to resolution mentality and things like that. And so along those lines, like, you've mentioned a couple times this idea of setting realistic expectations, and especially identifying some of those barriers that are going to be outside of our control. So kind of leaning into that a little bit, how would someone, like, how do you find those things? Like, rather than, just jumping into it and figuring it out, how do you find some of those barriers or some of those things that personality-wise or whatever that I'm just going to struggle with?
Well, I think one of the things I think you have to do is I take a problem-solving approach when I'm doing therapy a lot of times with people, of like having some kind of model in which they can kind of follow and try to figure out what those things are, because you can come up with great ideas. And one of the things when we do problem-solving, this stems back from my time as a kid doing that when we were in the gifted program as a kid, and we used to brainstorm, and that was the I don't know if people call it that anymore. That was back in the 80s. But when you brainstorm, you throw out every idea on the planet, and some of them end up being really bad ideas, and some of them are great. But I think that's part of how we going into something already restricting the way you're thinking about something limits what you're going to come out with, because you might come up with an idea that seems ridiculous when it comes out of your mouth, but then when you sit down and kind of figure it out, no, that actually really works. I think in the kind of grandiosity of New Year's resolutions, I think that's one of the problems, is we want these big things and big changes to happen, and that also creates big limitations rather than kind of going through all of that, where you pick apart, it's like the reading the Bible in a year. I'm with you, and it's usually Leviticus and Numbers where I get lost, because it's just a lot of information to take in that doesn't fit in my head well. But you can start reading your Bible any day of the year, just like a lot of resolutions. You can start them whenever you want to. New Year's does nothing magical. It's just a thing that we make it, and it is. So I think, to your point, I think people have to sit down and kind of problem solve that. What's the problem? What's the thing that you want to change, or what change do you want to affect in your life at that point? You got to come up with a list of possible ways to solve that problem. You're going to sit down and look at this model is called the Sober Act model. It's used in addiction stuff, but you stop and identify the problem. You organize a list of possible solutions. You be aware of the consequences, which is sitting down with all those things you came up with and going, what's the good, what's the bad, and weighing through those. You eliminate the negative. There are things that you're going to go, I want to lose 100 pounds. Well, there's certain drugs that are illegal I can take that, no, those are bad idea, don't do it. But somebody might spit one of those out when they're brainstorming, because they might be an addict. Well, when I was doing this, I got really skinny. You don't want to do that. And then, reach a conclusion. You've eliminated all the stuff that isn't going to work in your world, and then you reach that conclusion of what's the thing I'm going to push forward through now. And then there's the act part, which is how you work through carrying out that task. So in a very quick way, that's a easy way to figure out what you need to do. Yeah,
that's great. And so kind of launching from there, maybe now speaking to someone who they've went down this road many times, they've set resolutions, set goals, turns out they've all kind of been maybe unrealistic, or maybe they're struggling with this idea of failure. Like, every time I do one of these, I failed. So not going to worry about it anymore, because I'm just, I'm always going to fail at these. What would you say to someone like that who's maybe just struggling with this idea, struggling with this idea of feeling as though they are a failure for not being able to obtain some of this, and, kind of impacting some of their motivation moving forward to make changes?
Well, and for me, looking at it, we also have to take an honest look at ourselves. Why am I failing? Why do I keep making this goal and then I'm not obtaining it? If I'm not obtaining it, why is this my goal in the first place? Why am I beating myself about something? Do I care enough about it, or do I not care enough about it? If I do, then why am I failing? And I think taking an honest look at that is important, because there are lots of things that we're not successful on. Have not nearly lost the weight to which I need to. And there's a lot of reasons for that. Most of it's because I'm not motivated enough at this point to do that thing. And so why am I failing? I think and being honest about that. If you're really wanting this change, why can't I have this change? Some of it can be there's some limitation that is preventing me from, or there's something that's preventing me from reaching this, and it's something out of my control. If it's in my control, then what goal am I setting that's not letting me get there? And I think that's why it's important to go back to, if it's to be able to run, 5 miles a day, well, you're going to have to start walking. And then because you're not willing to start walking, you want to just get out there and try to run, and it just doesn't work for you, and you get sick of it, hate it, and quit.
Yeah.
All right. So thinking about the concept of failure and resolutions and goal setting and that sort of thing, what does the Christian faith say to somebody that would like to create change in their life, would like to grow in a particular area? How does grace and the gospel really help somebody who's trying to change?
I think grace in the gospel means you can sit down every day and fail, and as long as you're going back to God on that thing and going back to God to try for whatever that thing is, then you have grace. And that's the total mean of it is I can mess up, and as long as my heart is going in the right direction, not I'm just, please forgive me, Lord, and then I'm going to go do this anyway. Not that kind of attitude, but when you have a genuine attitude of trying to work through something, grace is vastly important, because you can fail. You can mess up, and there's always something you can learn from failing.
Yeah. And so, to me, that's actually a super important thing when it comes to resolution and goal setting. Is the problem that we run into a lot of times is I fail once, therefore the resolution's pointless, or the goal is pointless. And that's just not true. Most of the things that I've done that have been important in my life, that were things that I considered changes I need to make, were a process of growth. Is not linear.
Yeah.
It is this process of I'm growing, then I fail, and then I get back up and I grow some more, and I fail some, and there are going to be times where I'm not going in the direction that I want to go in, but the progress and the general direction is always in the right direction.
Yeah.
And I think that one of the things that probably we struggle with when it comes to resolutions is well, if I fail once, then it's just a pointless resolution. And that's just not the case. The person that wants to lose 100 pounds, if you lose 30, what an incredible accomplishment.
Yeah.
That's not, you shouldn't look at that and be like, I failed miserably.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things that the Christian faith gospel, grace-oriented goal setting probably is super helpful in is the idea of I need to continue to progress, but my progression is not what makes me right with God. Not what makes me valuable as a person.
Absolutely.
And I think we just miss that sometimes.
No, I think you're right. I think there's, like I said, that's where, when it comes to grace, or when you're looking at from a faith perspective, I'm not doing this thing. You know me personally, so there's ebbs and flows in my walk with God just like everybody else, but you probably know more about mine just from our personal friendship. But there's a point where there's accomplishments we get, the losing 30 pounds, or it's, reading 10 books of the Bible in full, and, just leaving Numbers and Leviticus behind is, I'll do those last.
We'll get there one day. We'll get there one day. It's fine.
But anyway, but I think the joy of life, when you can kind of take a pull back and a step back, is where you're going and how you're improving. And we get in this great, I'm here, and then this low happens, and well, why am I having the low? Well, that's not promised anywhere in the Bible that everything's going to be great from now on out.
Yep.
It's an up and down, and so I think that's a big deal. And
I think that's great, because it's kind of, for me, again, kind of being that type A, I love goals, I love achieving things, and nothing frustrates me more than nothing can frustrate me more than when I don't achieve something that I'm expecting I should have. And so I always have to go back to that kind of reminder of, you didn't get here, but you did get here. And so I've tried to retrain my brain to, it's all about progress. It's kind of what you were talking about with the idea of grace of, my heart is pursuing this, and I may take 2 steps forward, 3 steps back, and then 4 steps forward the next day. And, and it ebbs and flows, but as long as we are pursuing those things and continuing to look at that as progress, I think that's where we have to kind of rest and celebrate this idea of goal setting, resolutions, and things like that.
Okay, I have a question that is related to this. it's not specifically related to it. How important is it to make goal setting in community as opposed to as individuals?
That's a great question.
Answered. I'm gonna come to it. I got to think about that one for a half a minute. That one went a little deeper than.
Well, you think about a program like AA.
Yeah.
Like, part of what makes it so successful is it's in community. Like, you have to be accountable to somebody. Like, you're not allowed to just try to figure out how to do the 12 steps on your own. Like, you got to go.
Yeah.
You got to go and report to somebody.
There's a reason we have church, and I think that's. We're not supposed to be handed a Bible and go sit in the woods and never talk to anybody
Correct.
again. Like, so it's, I think it's vastly important to whatever you're doing in your life to have people around you that are going to hold you accountable, encourage
help
you,
you.
be cheerleaders,
Yeah.
whatever it might be that you need, rather than just I'm going to do this by myself. And that's what I think a lot of people do.
Mm-hmm.
We don't want to rely on anybody, or we don't want to disappoint them or feel like that, we're letting them down by not being able to achieve these things. Like, I'm never going to, bag on Matt because he didn't read his Bible through the entire year. I'm going to go, I get it. Numbers, Leviticus, we're there.
Yeah, that's right.
Hey, let's have a plan. Maybe we'll do those first, and then the rest of them will just flow, and it won't be a problem.
That's right. Swallow the big frog first. That's what I'm talking about.
You do say that a lot. So
That's right.
just live it out.
Yeah. No, I think, I don't know that I've shared this on the podcast before, but, of course, whenever I was doing my undergrad and everything, I was going into it with the counseling mindset. That's where I was going to go. I was going to become a counselor, all those kinds of things. Realized that was not for me. And I'm not very, counselor-esque, and I just always
Type A can make that kind of difficult.
Yeah, it does. And so, because I'm just like, just fix it, right? It's like why do you need
You hear what you're saying, right?
Yeah,
like, all you have to do
is like,
is
just fix it.
do this.
And so
It's the shortest counseling book in the world. Just fix it.
Yeah, that's right.
What's the Bob Newhart skit?
Yeah, that's right.
Don't do that, or whatever it was.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So that's kind of
that was it. Stop
yeah,
it.
that's right. And so that's kind of where I got, and so I realized quickly that I was not designed to do that well. But through that process, one of the internship that I did, and where I was, kind of sitting in on counseling sessions, things like that. Part of the internship required me to be part of a 12-step program. And so I went, and of course, I was kind of skeptical going into it because, I was like, I'm not, addicted to anything, I don't, but I went to this, and I was surrounded by a group of people, and the way this 12-step program worked was you had kind of a large group, and then you broke off into the smaller groups, and it was all across the board. You had some that were struggling with alcohol, drug addiction, sex addiction. I mean, it was just a mixture. It wasn't just an AA or, NA and things like that. It was kind of a collaborative thing, but I went, and to this day, being in that room with that group of individuals was the safest and most confident I felt to be able to freely share and talk through my goals or talk through my struggles and talk through all these kinds of things the way the church should be, right?
Yep, sure.
But to this day, I've never found something that authentic that I think really demonstrates the way the church should look, right? Because within our walls of the church, now we're putting up these walls, and it's like, well, I can't really let the person know I'm struggling with this. But in that room, I was surrounded by people who had to be open and transparent with all their struggles and stuff. And so I'm like, wow, if that person can share this, then I can share this. And the depth of that conversation and accountability and community went somewhere that I would have never thought of in my entire life, that, I would have felt more trusting in this group of all of us super dysfunctional people that then revealed that much more dysfunction in my life. But it helped me walk through things at that point in time in my life that I had no idea that I needed to walk through.
So look, here's the thing. This is going in a different direction that I had planned on or thought about going today. But like, the purpose of an AA is clearly stated in what the group itself. Like, you don't show up to an AA meeting thinking to yourself, like, I'm here for like some snacks and a fellowship. You show up because you got a problem. Like, you're messed up and you need some people to help you.
Yeah.
We don't come to church that way a lot of times.
Right.
We come to church because it's a place for nice people, and like, it's a place where we can get snacks and a little fellowship.
Coffee.
So, the donuts are there. We show up because like my buddies are there. But we don't show up because we're dysfunctional, broken people who need each other, need help.
Yeah.
And that actually what church is.
Yeah.
But we don't live that way most of the time.
But I'll push a little bit going into that. The reason AA and NA meetings are a lot like that is, one, you can show up, but if you sit around and don't participate for very long, people are going to start. They're going to start forcing you to talk about your mess, and that's that doesn't really happen. Not in big church anyway. It's not like we walk in the sanctuary and everybody goes.
You start calling people. Hey,
my name's Steven Stafford, and I did this, and this week.
Yeah, that's right.
But I think that's what creates that environment is a shared experience, and not everybody's experience is the same. There's sometimes you're like. There's people in AA that go, yeah, I did this, and somebody else is going, oh, that's baby stuff. And I think, but that's what creates that environment to share and be open and feel safe because everybody sitting in that room's struggling in a similar way to which you are. Even though on Sunday morning we're all in the same room, we're all struggling with similar things. Yeah. But we don't have to go, yep, this week these are the things I did.
That's right.
And so I think that's what creates the difference in the two, or one of the things that creates the difference in the two.
Yeah, I agree. And that was a specific instruction that was given to me at that time going into that because they wanted me to understand that, this is an internship and you're working here in this facility and helping facilitate and that sort of thing, but you're a participant first. Right. Because you have to engage because you're right. That's what creates that environment. And I think us, when we're talking about goals, resolutions, all those kinds of things, I think that's where we as a church need to do better of doing it in community and not a hangout group, which a lot of times that's kind of what community turns into, but you take that deeper level of accountability and be like, I screwed up this week, or I'm struggling with this, because everyone else in that room is doing that as well, and they're going to share that, and then you start developing that trust where you have this core group that you can share your wins, share your losses, all those things with on a regular basis.
But that group also has a very specific purpose. Our church does too, but
that's right.
They're living it out in a way where, and I think a better model for us internally is like life groups. That's kind of the intention of a life group.
Yeah,
but even then, when you're walking in and everybody else seems to have it all together, even though they absolutely don't in the room, just nobody's talking about what they don't have together.
Right.
Yeah, that's right. Like I said, this you said it. This ended up kind of going a few different directions, but I think it was great. As far as conversation, like Steven, thank you so much for being a part of this conversation and helping us walk through this idea of goal setting and resolutions or whatever that might look like. And so hopefully as you're listening, you kind of thought through some of this. Hopefully as you're going into, maybe you are wanting to set a resolution. That's great. Develop a plan, develop clear expectations, develop a clear, attainable pathway for that, and, know yourself. If you need help, talk with those around you. Say, hey, I'm considering this. That's great. Reach out and surround yourself with a community that can support you, encourage you, and be there with you when you succeed as well as when you fail. But as always, we appreciate you listening.
Thanks for joining us on Better Things Ahead. Follow the show on Spotify and Apple Podcast, and subscribe to our YouTube channel for the video of our podcast. Until next time, keep moving forward because there are always better things ahead.